The mother-in-law's calculated vendetta. When attempted sabotage lands her in jail, and my marriage is saved for the last 6 years, I have been happily married to Ethan, and I genuinely love everything about our life, except for his mother, Diana. She is a constant source of drama and negativity. Don't get me wrong, when I first met her, I respected her, but over time, my view quickly shifted. She has become incredibly toxic, manipulative, and deeply unhappy. Knowing the kind of person she is, I spent years trying to get on her good side. Back when Ethan was 18, he dated her then protege, the daughter of a business associate. They eventually broke up because he felt pressured to be with her for a beneficial alliance that his mother was heavily lobbying for. When he turned 25 and was single, Diana began pushing again, stating he should marry someone from her circle. He refused, leading to a major fight. She cried to his father about how she wanted a daughter-in-law she felt comfortable with, but Ethan's dad rarely listened to her hysterics. While Ethan and I were dating, his father was very encouraging, but Diana always treated me with coldness. She would constantly bring up Ethan's exes for no apparent reason, emphasizing how well they were doing and suggesting that Ethan should reach out to them. This went on for quite a while. Ethan also thought this was strange and would ask her to stop mentioning his past girlfriends. She would then get enraged and start mocking me, claiming I was jealous and that Ethan deserved someone more distinguished. Diana would deliberately invite one of Ethan's exes to family dinners, claiming she had run into her accidentally that day and simply had to ask her politely to join. She didn't follow me, but she constantly checked my private Instagram. I noticed she was usually the first person to view my stories. Should a man comment on my photograph, e.g. my cousin, she would run to her son and complain that I was sharing indecent images of myself. Ethan and I would actually chuckle at her claims. When Ethan and I decided to move in together, she tried to convince him to break up with me, telling him I had many flaws as a woman and that she could find him someone much better. This comment truly wounded me, as I had always tried to be friendly toward her. Sadly, Diana's treatment of me got even worse as soon as Ethan and I got engaged. Everyone started applauding when we announced our engagement, but she sat quietly. Then, to everyone's surprise, she jumped up and left the gathering. Later, she called Ethan, sobbing and yelling about how she felt she was the closest to him and deserved to be the first one to know, not hearing the news with everyone else. Afterward, she messaged me, nearly borderline threateningly, advising me on how I should treat her son, as she had always been the only female in his life. I nearly shivered at the strange message, leaving it on read without even bothering to respond. She started progressively ignoring me every time she saw me. For whatever reason, she stayed involved in all the wedding preparations, like when I went dress shopping and had my bridal shower, even though both my future father-in-law and Ethan called her out on it several times. Her criticism of the wedding reached a whole new level, as she freely expressed her unhappiness with my decisions. One day, Diana overheard me talking about the floral centerpieces with Ethan's father. She immediately started making fun of me, stating how my decision was completely tasteless, and how this was why she wanted her son to marry someone more refined. That was the breaking point, and I lost control. I made it plain to her that she was no longer invited to our wedding and yelled at her that I could not stand her continual taunting and criticism anymore. Shocked and gasping in surprise, as if she had never expected me to challenge her, Diana was infuriated, even by Ethan's father, who backed me up. Later on, she contacted Ethan, moaning about how I embarrassed her and insisting he should control me since I would be his wife. Ethan strongly insisted that he supported my choice and that she would not be invited should she not apologize. She grudgingly texted me a sincere apology. I saw it and once more left it on read. I was already tired from getting ready for my wedding and wanted nothing to do with her drama. She did attend our wedding in the end, as I didn't want her to criticize us afterward. Everyone, including the guests, seemed to have no issue following the emerald and gold color palette chosen for my wedding, but Diana arrived looking as though she were attending a funeral, a black floor-length gown with a lace collar and a mournful expression. We were stunned, to put it mildly. She visited everyone, sharing her grief at losing her son to another woman. At the reception, Ethan approached her about her discomfort with her attire, but she stated that she had the right to wear whatever she chose and that I was too domineering. When her nonstop scene-making persisted, she tried to portray the victim, but my in-laws ultimately ordered her to leave. It was embarrassing. Ever since that day, I avoid her. When I delivered our son, Liam, I forbade Diana from being alone with him. She tried to oppose it, but my husband's parents had my back, They supported my choice, knowing exactly why I wanted her far from my infant. Diana had suffered a miscarriage with her then partner Mark 2 years ago, and it had totally shattered her. That was indeed a depressing period for everyone. Given that, Ethan and I chose to be somewhat more lenient. We would welcome her to our house so she could connect with Liam. Despite her behavior with me, she has been rather lovely to our son, which was genuinely shocking. She looked to have changed at first, but with time, she returned to her former self. She constantly talks about how difficult her life is, how things never seem to go for her, and blames ex-friends or managers for upsetting her life. I have found over time that she is never wrong in her thinking and is always attempting to get people on her side by playing the victim card. In confrontations, she hardly ever acknowledges any flaws. She chose to get married to Mark this year and invited everyone except us, as our relationship seemed to have improved. Ethan was surprised to learn we were not invited. When we questioned her about it, she began to explain how she wouldn't let me come since I would cause a disturbance at her wedding, having never done anything to her. I called and asked her why she would think something like that. Diana began to tell how she had deliberately dressed in all black for our wedding, so now she was worried that I might do the same, and this was why she wanted me off-site. I informed my husband straightforwardly about how manipulative she was. Outraged about it, after discussing it with his father, Ethan decided to let his mother know they would neither be attending the wedding nor would they pay for it. This turned her to tears, and she began to blame me for starting this disaster. Her fiancé told her she had no right to be pointing fingers at me, as she had freely admitted her own error. Diana, however, explained her behavior by stating that I should just get over it, since our wedding was long ago. Later, she contacted me to apologize and asked for forgiveness, as my in-laws were still not paying for her wedding. Though I hate to say it, Diana can be quite charming and convincing when she wants something. I wanted to just move forward from the past and forgave her. Her wedding to Mark went perfectly. We all showed up and had fun. Not even 6 months later, Diana appeared at our door, grumbling about her marriage failing. For a few days, Ethan and I let her stay with us, where she would spend endless hours venting about her husband. They appeared to be struggling to conceive, and Diana was obviously blaming Mark for everything. When I went to speak to her, she insisted it was entirely her husband's responsibility. When she was not grumbling about her husband, she would be hyper-focused on our lives and try to create things that didn't exist. For instance, usually every morning before heading to work, I visit the gym. When I'm running late, I occasionally grab my work clothes so I may finish my workout, have a bath, and change into my business wear. Diana observed this for some time and would have many questions about it, including why I was bathing or why I even needed to visit the gym. I didn't give it much thought and would tell her how I liked keeping my weight and how I disliked visiting the office all sweaty. She would nod and lick her lips. Our mother-in-law was telling us about a friend of hers who was divorcing right at lunch. She left her friend's spouse and grabbed half of his assets after learning about his adultery. Diana stopped her abruptly to ask Ethan whether he and I had signed a prenup before we were married. We paused to stare at her. We stopped eating. She glanced at Ethan expectantly, as if I hadn't even arrived. Ethan told her straightforwardly that he is not someone who minces his words, and as he and I both made rather good money, we felt no need for a prenup. Diana snorted and began to say that he could be blindsided any day, and that cheats abound today. Her statements offended me, therefore I asked her to clarify exactly what she meant. Diana then began to remark how I was obviously meeting someone, as I was usually carrying a change of clothing everywhere, and that as Ethan's mother, it was her obligation to warn her son. These were shocking remarks for me. My in-laws arrived right away to save her from continuing to fabricate such things and advised she shouldn't interfere with others' affairs. Without missing a beat, Diana continued to emphasize how she was only trying to be there for her son and began to joke if our son Liam was indeed Ethan's son since he didn't quite look like him. I swear I watched the redness of wrath on my husband's face. In my life, I had never seen him this enraged. Looking Diana squarely in the eye, he informed her that she was not a mother yet, as she did not deserve to be one, and that her child would be better off in paradise than with someone like her. Diana's lips hung in stunned disbelief. My in-laws simply watched silently. Ethan left, leaving Diana complaining about her being a shameless person, trying to ruin everything since her life had nothing to offer. She was merely a loser, he informed her, doing nothing all day while her husband worked nonstop. He kept saying that since she was plainly projecting, she should focus on her own marriage instead of pointing fingers at me and asking about prenups. Reduced to tears, Diana began to wail, expecting comfort. She turned to Mark, seated just next to her, but he never spoke. My husband never has this kind of mental collapse. She eventually got up from her chair and dashed into the restroom. My husband was boiling over. I stroked his hand, and his mother arrived to cool him down. I nodded as he apologized for what his mother had said about our son, understanding just how annoying she could be. Having taken enough from Diana over the years, I was somewhat relieved that my husband stood up for me so publicly. He apologized to Mark, but totally ignored Diana once he cooled off. That day, following lunch, we returned to no interaction with Diana. Her actions were impacting my husband in addition to me. We simply barred her from everything. After lunch, my in-laws spoke with us and decided Diana had gone too far this time. They could see how their usually quiet son had gone wild after she had persisted in pushing him. We last spoke with her a year ago, and everything has been running without problems. 2 months ago, I discovered I was expecting. Given our lack of effort, this was quite unexpected. To welcome another family member makes my spouse and me blessed. We decided to let everyone know on my husband's birthday, as we were waiting for the proper moment to do so. Wanting to honor Ethan, my in-laws were throwing a great celebration in their lawn. Diana chose to show her face after hearing about this from others. When we saw her, my husband and I staggered. Coming to hug Ethan, she told him how much she had missed him and how sorry she was for their last talk. Taking my hand, my spouse advised his mother to be apologetic to me because she had pointed fingers at my character. Diana nodded, looked at me, then apologized. She informed me how she had been attending therapy for the previous few months and came to see how inappropriate it was for her to treat me like that. Though I disagreed with everything she said, I nodded, as I wanted to be polite to her in front of everyone since this was a gathering for my husband. My in-laws checked in on us and informed us that should we feel uncomfortable, they would kick her out as they had no knowledge she would be arriving. Ethan, however, insisted on not creating a scene, hence we decided to let this go. It seemed strange as Diana was laughing and socializing with everyone during the celebration. She mentioned visiting a therapist, so I wanted to provide her the benefit of the doubt, even though she appeared overly optimistic, completely not her nature. Ethan spoke movingly about how he thought he was the luckiest man on earth, appreciative of yet another year spent with a lady like me. When it came time to cut the cake, his remarks made me flush with delight. I couldn't help but value the fact that my husband and I were still intensely in love, as we were when we first started dating all those years ago. Then, Ethan and I made the decision to let everyone know some fantastic news. Grinning, we said we were having a baby, and everyone paused to consider before yelling in delight. My mother rushed up to hug me and started to cry as Ethan's father saluted Ethan and myself. Tears streamed down his face. Everyone was eager to know whether we had chosen baby names and was clearly delighted for us. Diana was the one sore thumb that caught out. She seemed stunned. Her mood changed, and she simply turned away from us, appearing irritated. So I assumed maybe she was processing things slowly, though I was a little concerned, thinking she would ruin yet another party for us. I was sidetracked with other individuals approaching to chat. I got up to assist my mother-in-law carry lunch, but Ethan and my parents begged me to stay seated, telling me I should not even move at this point. As I was calmly waiting for my husband to bring me a meal, Diana approached me, beaming. Lively, she said that she personally wanted to offer me dinner since she was so excited about my pregnancy. She handed me a dish. She even said, as she passed me the plate, about how she wanted to make it up to me for all the times she had been nasty to me in the past. I nodded and politely approved. She then turned to go. I was ready to start digging when I fortunately found she had put shrimp on my dish. I know I'm quite allergic to shrimp, hence I was surprised Diana even brought me this. Disappointed, I shook my head and got up to get my own lunch. Mark approached me at that point to wish well on my pregnancy. After a little conversation, he asked me why I hadn't been eating. After I pointed out how Diana had served me shrimp, probably by error, Mark reassured me not to worry and removed the dish from my hands. Since he enjoyed eating shrimp, he told me he could have this dish. I could buy a fresh plate for myself. I nodded, grinned, then turned aside. Not even 5 minutes later, Mark began to puke and retch across this dish. Concerned, everyone stopped eating and watched him stagger to get out of his seat. Concerned, Ethan and Diana hurried towards him. Mark gestured at his plate, then at his throat. Our eyes grew wide with amazement as we realized what he had eaten definitely made something wrong with him. Mark passed out. Then everyone gasped in amazement and worry. Diana hurried over to examine his dish, and her eyes grew shocked. She turned to stare at me and inquired whether I had handed her husband my plate. I nodded. Someone called for an ambulance amid the tumult, and he was hurried to the hospital. Through all of this, Diana was sobbing nonstop and was staring angrily at me. Later on, we were told Mark had been poisoned. Knowing that the plate belonged originally to me, I nearly passed out upon hearing this. What Mark consumed may have poisoned my baby and me. Not yet known to Ethan, my in-laws, or my parents is this, since nobody knew what was in the food he consumed that had caused him to faint in this manner. The police were summoned to get evidence from it. Mark is still in recovery in the hospital. Diana stayed with him overnight. My husband and I are fielding calls from relatives calling to find out what happened to Mark and who might have poisoned him. What has transpired shakes my in-laws. They are sleeping over at our house since they are terrified to return to their house. Nobody knows what happened abruptly while everything was going so nicely. Telling everyone that the plate originally belonged to me and how Diana had come and presented it to me makes me terribly afraid. Should this evolve into an inquiry, I will have to tell the cops the truth. Though, most importantly, I am now rather concerned about what my mother-in-law could do to me. I feel quite awful about what has transpired. I don't want to be around her, nor can I bring my kids anywhere close to her, as she obviously has no restraints about trying to poison me. I feel bad about handing Mark my meal. Update 1. Whoa, thanks for the thousands of comments on this post in just a few hours. I never would have guessed I could have received these many answers. I typed this earlier and had shaking hands. I haven't been able to sleep. Though I agree with what everyone says, I do feel somewhat accountable for the event involving Mark. I should have simply tossed the dish away. I'm not sure why I let him grab it from me. I keep crying about his future. My hubby has been hovering close to me, though he doesn't know what I know about his mother. He believes I'm only worried. I agree with the remark saying I should get down and gently chat to everyone. Although I'm not sure if everyone will believe me, my in-laws do have security cameras set all around the house. Given that this birthday celebration took place in their backyard, I am confident they could check and confirm via their camera that Diana presented me the plate. I'll speak with everyone tonight, then update. Update 2. We then chatted, and I am very happy to have the nicest in-laws on planet Earth. They are already staying over with us, so I sat down with Ethan and them over dinner to let them know I had something crucial to share. I began by inhaling deeply, the weight of the circumstances slumping on my shoulders. Everyone gathered around. I related the birthday party's events, including how Diana had handed me a plate of shrimp and Mark had unintentionally consumed it, causing his sickness. Their shock and incredulity reflected my own as I spoke. My in-laws looked at each other, clearly worried. Ethan's face transformed from uncertainty to rage. I went on, expressing my concern about Diana's intentions and past attempts to hurt me. Faced with the possible repercussions for myself and our unborn kid, I hesitated to share this material. Being the pragmatic woman my mother-in-law is, she advised right away looking at the security camera tape, given the gravity of the matter. Ethan's father nodded in agreement, though clearly agitated. Ethan stayed quiet to process the startling disclosure. Reviewing the security footage from their camera app, the truth was indisputable. The video shows Diana presenting the poison plate to me, and then what happened to cause Mark's suffering. The weight of the data made no space for uncertainty. As the knowledge sank in, emotions ran strong. Now totally aware of his mother's evil intentions, Ethan battled to control his wrath. His parents were horrified by their daughter's activities and also found the extent she had gone to cause disturbance shocking. Stunned in silence, we tried to figure out why she would act in such a manner, given this is a very serious issue. My in-laws have opted to forward this material to the police following this disclosure. Since Mark is the one who has to lodge charges on Diana, Ethan's father and my husband will be visiting and meeting him after he recovers. I want to cry every time I consider how I let Mark have my poison dish. I have no idea how Mark will react. I am very anxious about him, so I cannot eat anything right or sleep. I will let you know about anything noteworthy. Update 3. All right, lads, I'm back with an update at last. Although I know it has been a month since my previous update, right now, I'm a pregnant woman experiencing a lot. First things first, she was detained. After seeing the proof my in-laws handed, the recording to the police, Diana admitted everything right away and did not even dispute the claims. She started crying. Mark was as startled as any of us when my husband approached him about what had transpired. My husband advised him to press charges against his mother, telling him he would always be a part of our family, regardless of what he decided to do, since this was such a wicked thing to do. Once Mark recovered, he not only chose to prosecute charges, but also sought divorce. Diana called my in-laws emotional and begging them to pardon her. As it happens, Diana is pregnant herself. She tried to control them by telling them they should do this for the benefit of their granddaughter, begging them to bail her out. Ethan's father strongly advised her, nevertheless, that she should at last learn to own her actions and that they were done coddling her. Though my mother-in-law is quite depressed about what is happening to her daughter, she knows that her actions cannot be simply forgiven. The cops discovered proof she had tampered with the meal meant to damage me, which backfired and resulted in injury to her husband. She has been charged with several offenses, including risking life, causing damage, and tampering with food, thereby compromising integrity. Diana had been pleading Mark not to charge her, saying how this was all my fault anyhow. Fortunately, Mark's mind is set on punishing her. Her court hearing will begin shortly. I doubt she can flee this time. My son and I are doing okay. To everyone inquiring, he is clueless about what his grandmother has done. We want our son to know and avoid these circumstances, hence Ethan and I have discussed, and we do intend to sit down with him and tell him the truth. Having a difficult but absolutely vital conversation with a young child will be challenging but essential. As instructed by my doctor, I also get frequent ultrasounds for my pregnancy every 2 weeks. We want the kid to be a surprise. Hence, we do not intend to find out the gender. Knowing what has happened to Diana, my parents have been somewhat protective of me. They are urging me to see treatment since they are concerned this could compromise my psychological well-being during the pregnancy. I agree with them, as while behaving normally, I have a deep-rooted phobia of what Diana did to my meals and avoid eating any outside food or anything I have not made myself. Hopefully, my husband will help me to overcome this illogical phobia, as he knows about it and supports me all through. Update 4, I last checked 8 months ago. Diana is a prisoner right now. She came out guilty on the allegations. Though I never went to her court hearings, occasionally my in-laws would tell me how Diana came clean to the court, admitting years of jealousy of me. She had always dreamed of one of her best friends marrying my husband. Hence, when he started dating me, she would always try to harass me since she never wanted an outsider to marry her son. She became jealous when we told my husband's birthday party we were expecting, as she was also going to reveal her pregnancy. She wanted to share her wonderful news since she had miscarried once, but she felt we stole her opportunity to shine. She became so enraged then from her pregnancy hormones and mixed a little bit of rat poison with my supper. She said she wanted me to wind up in the hospital, but she never wanted to physically hurt the baby or myself. She said she deserved a reduced punishment as she never expected me to offer her husband my plate, and since I essentially poisoned her spouse. Of course, the judge answered her pleadings. She was put to prison and will be far from our life for some considerable while. Mark is also at last free since she has also effectively divorced him. We have seen him over the months and keep including him into our family events whenever we can. When we spoke, and I profusely apologized to him for handing my plate to him, he informed me that it was never my fault. I started to cry, hearing that, as I had been rehearsing it over and over again in my thoughts, wishing I could have done things differently, so he was never poisoned. I am happy that Mark is doing well right now. Regarding Ethan and myself, our family now boasts a baby daughter. Our daughter's presence has warmed and lit our life, despite the shadows of the past still there. Being a big brother makes our son Liam very happy, and he has been loving and caring toward his little sister. Seeing our kids connect makes us appreciate things. My parents and in-laws have been there for us all through, guiding us through this new phase of our life.